Now it's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Ms. Deanne Criswell, the 12th Administrator of FEMA. Administrator Criswell was unanimously confirmed by the Senate in April of this year and hit the ground running. She is uniquely prepared to lead the agency and our nation in executing FEMA's mission of helping our citizens before, during, and after a disaster. Her service to our nation has included a career in the Air National Guard and a career in emergency management, including serving as an emergency manager at the local level, most recently meeting the incredible daily challenge of serving as the Commissioner of Emergency Management in New York City. Importantly, her previous service in FEMA has familiarized her with the National Capital Region, as she worked in our headquarters and is now a resident of the National Capital Region. Now, I look forward, along with all of you, to hearing from Deanne Criswell, the FEMA Administrator. Ma'am.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And again, thank you, Kim, for that very kind introduction. It's really great to be here today for this summit. And I'd like to thank the committee for inviting me to join the 3rd Annual Joint Federal Committee Summit. This summit serves an incredibly important purpose: to acknowledge, discuss, and prepare for the evolving and emerging threats to the National Capital Region. As the 4th largest metropolitan area in the United States, the seat of the government, and the home of more than 300 federal agencies, we are a natural target. In addition to the multiple levels of government activity, including a significant diplomatic presence, the NCR is also home to millions of people. It is host to a diverse and vibrant economy, a location that welcomes high volumes of international and domestic tourism, and serves as a major transportation hub. We host the presidential inauguration and State of the Union addresses, First Amendment demonstrations, concerts, festivals, and marathons. We are on the world stage 24/7. And we must regularly manage large-scale events, from those that occur without warning to those that involve planning and coordination across dozens or hundreds of agencies. And we are good at what we do. We have to be. At FEMA, we know that a coordinated regional approach to planning and preparedness is key to providing a safe, secure, and resilient region. Which is why, by holding discussions such as these today, we can be a transformative catalyst in regional preparedness. Some of our strongest work in the preparedness space is supporting our partners, like all of you, to prepare for the national security challenges we face today and to anticipate the challenges we expect to face in the future. We facilitate planning and hosting exercises for national security challenges, such as pandemics, national security emergencies and events, and counterterrorism. We lead continuity for the federal executive branch in our national continuity programs to ensure that we can have a functioning government. But we can't solve these problems alone. It takes all of us to make this work. As many of you know, the Homeland Security Act of 2002 created the Office of the National Capital Region Coordination to oversee and coordinate federal programs and build relationships with local, state, and federal partners in the NCR to enhance domestic preparedness. This capability, this committee, all of you, make the NCR safer, more prepared, and more resilient. 20 years ago, the September 11th terrorist attacks shifted our focus toward man-made threats. It drew in an unprecedented increase in preparedness funding, quadrupling our grants for emergency management and homeland security activities almost overnight. Today, FEMA has over $1 billion available under our Homeland Security Grant Program. We use this money to fund efforts that secure our nation's ports and urban mass transit systems, protect the nonprofit organizations serving our communities, and enhance the response capabilities of state, territorial, and tribal governments. But the threat landscape is changing. As adversaries become more sophisticated and technology evolves, we now must navigate how we respond to invisible enemies, This past May, a ransomware cyber attack shut down the Colonial Pipeline, which carries gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel from Texas to as far away as New York. It is also responsible for supplying about 45% of all fuel consumed on the East Coast. The attack came on the heels of mounting concerns over the vulnerability of our nation's critical infrastructure to cyber attacks, after several high-profile incidents impacted multiple federal government agencies, including Defense, Treasury, State, and Homeland Security. These cyber attacks exposed vulnerabilities of our nation's critical infrastructure. Adversaries have proven their capability to devastate our supply chains, and it has highlighted the importance of the cyber-physical nexus, especially in the NCR. In the face of this reality, FEMA will be administering a new grant program to address cybersecurity risks threatening the information systems of state, local, and tribal organizations. Through the infrastructure bill, we will be providing $1 billion over 4 years to help governments draft a cybersecurity plan, better protect their data, and modernize their technological infrastructure. But this is only addressing one of the emerging threats of the digital age. During today's summit, FEMA's Office of Counterterrorism and Security Preparedness will share a presentation highlighting how misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation are increasingly infiltrating social media and online platforms. They will share the kinds of targets, topics, and tools that bad actors are utilizing in their pursuit of spreading disinformation and malinformation, and why it's difficult to identify, analyze, and mitigate these complex threats. While it may not seem like something that we need to factor into our efforts, we have seen firsthand how the malicious spread of falsities can impact our ability to respond, how it can impede legitimate information sharing and disrupt critical operations. Countering false and misleading information is something that FEMA has had to deal with for years, as unfortunately, there are dishonest individuals who try to take advantage of these chaotic situations. With the prevalence of social and online platforms, it is not difficult for information, valid or invalid, to move quickly, and it can come from anywhere, foreign or domestic, from organized groups or individual actors. As our awareness increases, so does our ability to react. But in this rapidly evolving environment, vigilance and creative countermeasures are going to be key. Confidence in government is rooted in our ability to forward look and be prepared with systems and protocols for managing incidents and events of all types. In the NCR, with the complexity of our region, we must work even harder to ensure we have a coordinated response to maintain the public's trust. The reality is that we are facing increasing expectations to manage risks that have traditionally been outside of our roles. There are numerous non-traditional risks that may be drawing on your resources, including the opioid crisis, tackling homelessness, dealing with social unrest, and the consequences of domestic terrorism and cybersecurity breaches. And of course, there's climate change, which is turning storms, floods, and fires that we manage into profound, long-term, cascading incidents, driving mass migration and creating resource scarcity. But emergency managers are uniquely positioned to see the way that our systems are stretched because we coordinate across sectors. These increasing expectations, which we've all been experiencing for some time, are being driven by the expanding risks our country is facing. And as our risks continue to grow, they intersect in ways that increase our vulnerabilities. So what is it that we should do in face of this expanding risk, of this evolving role? How should we react to this change? I believe the only option is to embrace this shift. We will continue to do what we do best, lean on our experience and our expertise, step into the future, define it, and lead the way. The first way we do this is by taking partnerships a step further. Success in our business hinges on collaboration and on relationships. This principle is embedded in the fiber of what we do each and every day. It is embedded in the Joint Federal Committee. So I encourage all of you to expand your network by building bridges to organizations you have not traditionally relied on. We also need to think creatively and focus on future risk. We create many of our plans and exercises based on historical risk, based on what we know, which still needs to be a part of our conversation. But the future is going to look very different than the past. We must have a more deliberate conversation about what our future risk is going to be. What hazards do we think we are going to face in 10, 15, 20, or even 30 years? What can we learn and project from the trends that we see now? Just like previous disasters have triggered positive change, we continue to learn from recent events that are being discussed here today. But it is not enough just to share information. We have to look at how we are going to turn what we learn at this summit into action that will transform into the future. We face what can feel like an uncertain future, but instead of that being a cause for anxiety, we need to look at it as an opportunity. Together, we are going to build more partnerships and strengthen the ones that exist. Together, we are going to champion the concept of the whole is better than the parts of its sum. Building on decades of regional collaboration between local, state, and federal partners, I am confident that as we move into this new era, we will remain committed to a common vision of working together toward a safe and secure nation, a safe and secure national capital region. I want to thank you again for letting me join you today. Thank you for being here and participating in this important conversation. And thank you for your dedication, your commitment, and the sacrifices you make to protect this region and our nation. Thank you for what you do. And with that, Kim, I think I'll open it up for a few questions.
Yeah, thank you, Administrator. We really appreciate having you here with us today, and we do appreciate the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions. So the first question, looking at really the theme of our conference here today, what do you feel is perhaps the greatest challenge that the National Capital Region faces with respect to emerging threats and hazards? And how would you encourage federal emergency managers and security officers, those of us gathered here today, to work with state and local partners to be ready to address these challenges?
You know, it's a great question, Kim. And as I talked in my remarks, I think that the National Capital Region is an incredibly unique area with the concentration of the government around us, with the variety of stakeholders that we have to deal with, federal, state, local, international, nonprofit, private sector, all coming together and merging, and events like no other part of the country has to face. We are certainly at the eye of whatever's happening around the world and a target for whatever some bad actor might want to do. A very unique situation that I think that we're in. But I think that means it's more important than ever, as I talked about integrating systems or bringing systems together, that interoperability of the different systems. We have to continue to work towards learning how to integrate them better, understanding the interdependencies of those systems, and not operating just in our own silos, but recognizing that the decisions that we make here at FEMA will impact the decisions of all of the other agencies around the National Capital Region, and continuing with events like this and with the continued collaboration across the National Capital Region, that we are staying in close contact and integrating those systems together so we collectively can be better prepared to support whatever might happen.
Thank you for that. You mentioned in your remarks, again, the sessions that we were addressing today. And earlier we had a session on misinformation and disinformation. I heard a lot of the technical aspects of that. Interested in knowing because of the fact that FEMA faces this issue routinely during large disasters, and really most recently during the pandemic. As the FEMA administrator, and perhaps even given us some insight from your experience in New York City, are there any specific principles or strategies that you follow in addressing that issue?
You know, Kim, information is so critical, right? It is the key to our success. In the type of work that we do, accurate, consistent, and timely information is what is going to be the foundation for making sure that we can sustain the trust of the American people. And so with that, we know that there are bad actors out there. We know that there are individuals that will also take advantage of that opportunity to spread misinformation and disinformation. But we can't let that negatively impact our approach, our drive to make sure that we have a focus on getting accurate and timely information out there. I think the biggest thing for me is we can't wait to have perfect information ourselves to be communicating with the public. We have to start giving information as soon as we have something, acknowledging what we don't know, and when we're going to continue to come back and give them updates. That lets them know that, hey, we don't have everything yet, but we're building that trust and we're building that connection. But at the same time, we also have to watch for the misinformation that's coming out there, and we have to be able to address it head on. And there's a couple of ways that I've seen it done here at FEMA as well as in local jurisdictions or state jurisdictions. You know, one of the things that we did in FEMA during the response to Hurricane Ida was we created a rumor control page on our website. This is a way that we can identify those things that we're hearing as misinformation or disinformation and provide the right, accurate information out to the American people. Those kind of efforts to get that information out there and clarify what's right and what's wrong is really important. But we can also rely on our media partners, right? Those trusted news sources that we deal with day in and day out, to have them help us get the right message out there and start to dispel any of the rumors or the misinformation that's out there. Building those relationships with your media partners now is going to be critical to be able to tap into them as a force multiplier when we're trying to get the right information out at a later time. So that's a little bit about how I would approach it and some of the things that I think that we need to focus on. Information is such an important part of what we do, and we have to be very proactive and deliberate with it, but also mindful of the fact that people will take advantage of the situation to try to spread their own misinformation.
Thanks for that. We appreciate your experience and know that as you lead FEMA, that much of that experience that you gained at the local level is certainly going to benefit all of us. I know your time is short. We've got one last question here, and we do appreciate you joining us today because I know what most people don't know, that you had 3 different engagements today. So we very much do appreciate you taking the time to join us. So more generally here, the field of emergency management continues to take on an ever-expanding list of roles and responsibilities, as you noted, which are increasingly taxing and rewarding. How should we encourage young people entering the workforce to enter the field of emergency management?
I think that the biggest thing we can do is continue to promote how amazing the field of emergency management is. We bring such a unique skill set to the table. We solve the toughest problems that are out there. My experience at the local level in New York City is, you know, those problems that nobody else wants to solve or can solve, they bring to emergency management. And as emergency managers, I think as I stated in my remarks, we need to embrace this and really use this as a recruiting tool to say, hey, you don't have to come from a traditional first responder background. Do you like to solve tough problems? Are you really good at data analysis? Are you really good at communicating with the public? You know, really enforcing or encouraging and expanding everybody's understanding of the variety and the diversity of the types of things that emergency managers do and the impact that they have on people. I don't think that there's another government agency, at least at the federal level, that has such a specific and direct impact on people themselves in a positive way, helping them at their time of greatest need. And we need to start getting that message out in high schools. You know, one of the things that I found amazing when I was in New York City is that they have these trade schools or technical schools, and one of their high schools is focused on emergency management. And so students there throughout their high school years focus on classes related to what it means to be an emergency manager. We need to do more of that. We really need to start to engage people at that level so they understand the type of skills that are needed to be in this field, the type of rewarding experiences that they're going to have, and how amazing it is to be in this field of emergency management, especially today.
Thank you, Administrator Criswell, for joining us. Again, we really appreciate you taking the time to be a part of our summit and sharing your thoughts with us. We look forward to future opportunities where we might engage the Joint Federal Committee with you.
Thanks, Kim. It was really great to be here today. And thank you again, everybody, for taking some time to participate in today's important summit.